Graham, thanks
Hello,
for...
how are you, Liz? Good.
I'm good, thanks. Thanks for meeting with me today. First of all, can you just tell us a little bit about yourself?
Yep, sure. I mean, I have been earning my living by writing since I was 16, which is a very long time ago. And I started off as a newspaper journalist, and then I have worked in public relations ever since. I've been in the writing industry for over 40 years.
Excellent.
And this is my first novel. It's had a fairly long gestation period as I started writing Findo's Mousetrap at the turn of the millennium, 2000.
2000?
Yeah, but I haven't worked on it continuously all the time. I suppose the last 18 months I've tended to focus on it a bit more.
Okay. So, tell us a bit about Findo's Mousetrap. What's it about?
Well, it's essentially a romance, because I'm a romantic old soul. And it is a romance, but it's a transatlantic story, and it has a very interesting supernatural twist to it. Findo Garsk, who's the central character, and his business partner, a guy called Andrew McCubbin, have identified what it is that enables ghosts to reappear inside buildings. Now, have you ever heard of something called the stone tape theory?
I haven't.
Right, well, let me very briefly. The stone tape theory suggests that when very dramatic events take place inside a building, they're captured in the silica and the brickwork and the stonework of that building. And then a certain series of things, positions, influences happen, physical conditions, and it releases those pictures. And that's why we see ghosts, usually in buildings, and that's what the stone tape theory is. Now, Andrew McCubbin and Findo Garsk have identified precisely what it is that makes that happen, that triggers that release from the stonework. And that's what the story is. So this romance, transatlantic, there's a lovely lady in it called Dimphna Doyle, who is an Irish-American from Boston, and she is the love of Findo's life, and together that's how they revolve around the story.
Very interesting. So, where did your inspiration come from for this?
It's quite interesting, actually, Liz, because in the story, Findo Garsk suggests that he was listening to John Humphreys on the Today programme. And that's exactly right, because that's where I got the idea from. I was sitting down at breakfast with my wife 10, 12 years ago. I couldn't tell you how long ago it was. And there was a story on there, and he was, I think he was an American scientist. And he was talking about how they age stars, and it was all to do with light transmission and the very distant stars from the solar system. By the time their light reaches Earth, they're probably dead because it takes so long and they're so far away. And I sort of started thinking about this, and that's how the concept of Findo's Mousetrap came about. The Mousetrap incident is quite interesting because in, I think it was 1856, a guy, a minor aristocrat called Henry Fox Talbot, took the very first photographic negative in Wiltshire, and his camera was called the Mousetrap. And it was a tiny little thing, apparently, and there's a museum about it down in Lake O'Rabby today. And that's where I got the name from, and of course Findo Garsk is a village in Perthshire that I'd been driving past with my wife and family for nearly 40 years, en route up to the north of Scotland, where we go on holiday. And so, to answer your question very cleverly, very correctly rather, that's precisely what it is. You know, Findo and Andrew Mack have identified what it is that triggers these things. It's a computer-based system, and they call that computer the Mousetrap. So it's all down to BBC and Today programme and John Humphreys on Radio 4.
Well, we'll have to drop him a note.
We will.
So, there's a lot of characters in the book. Who would you say your favourite is?
My favourite? Well, I personally rather like Lady Garsk. That's Findo's mother. I think she's rather lovely. I quite like old Findo, actually. He's a good old stick. And quite fond of all of them. What was interesting is that you start off this process of writing, and in a way the characters develop their own personalities. And they dictate to a degree what they say, what they do, and what happens. And that's really a very refreshing part of writing, writing fiction anyway. So, to answer your question, who's my favourite? Lady Garsk, I think.
So if you could, taking on the Mousetrap theme, if
Yeah.
you could go back to any point in history, where would you go?
I think I'd like to go back with the advantage of good health and wealth to the 1930s. I think it's a very romantic period. As I did say earlier on, I'm a great romantic. And I'd go back to that period with my wife and my children, and I'm sure we'd have a great time. I could see us buzzing around those wonderful open-top cars, those Bentleys, and having a whale of a time. Strangely enough, Findo doesn't go back to the 1930s at all. It goes much earlier.
So do you think there could be a Findo's Mousetrap 2?
Well, there is a Findo's Mousetrap 2 already.
Is this an exclusive, Graham?
I don't know about that. Yeah, I haven't told anybody else anyway, so I guess it is. But yeah, I mean, I've started writing a second Findo McGubbin story about it, and I guess I'm about a third of the way through it. It's slightly different. Findo's Mousetrap is based in the United States and in Scotland and in London. This is much more based in Scotland, although I think we will go over to America at some time during the story. I'm sure Dimfner will make sure we go back over to America.
And where can we go to download it?
Now there is the question. You can download it on Twitter. You can look at it on Twitter rather. You can follow it on Facebook. There's a website, and you can download it on Amazon Kindle and also on iPads.
So Findo's Mousetrap has gone digital.
It has gone very digital, as it should do, because it's a very technological piece of equipment.
Excellent. Thank you very much, Graham.
Thank you, Liz.